demonstration tonight is Nelson Zollinger. He's making a whistle, or whistles, one whistle. And that's a very fun project. I don't know how many of you guys have made whistles, but I've made a lot of them and given a lot away. Nelson?
Thanks, Joe. Hello, everybody. They've been on me for a year. They used to say to me, "Hey, why don't you do something?" I said, "Well, what do I do? I'm new. I don't even know how to make a bowl without having some catches in it." But anyhow, finally, I guess persistence is what it is. You ask a guy long enough, he'll just say yes by mistake. That got me up here. Anyhow, actually Joe said, "Why don't you make a whistle?" And I thought, well, anybody can whistle. So I got to checking into it. Whistle is kind of interesting. For hundreds of years, people used gourds and all kinds of things to make whistles, but from what I looked up on the internet, or Wikipedia says that I think it was 1836, a guy named John Hudson made the first whistle and became the first manufacturer of whistles. And what I want to make tonight's a train whistle, and it's the same. I don't know if any of you guys ever made the regular little whistle. What you have to make something whistle is either the winter wind blowing the wind around the corner of your house. But basically what has to happen is you have to have an amount of air split. And so in an ordinary, I did think maybe I'd draw it on there, but I'm not too good at drawing. But when the air goes in a chamber, it has to hit something and split. And so what we do in the single whistles I made, and I think I threw one in here, like the first whistle I made. I don't stay real organized, but I put everything in here. There you go. That's the first whistle I made. And the basics of it is, this one I think I drilled a hole about 2 inches deep, 3/8 inch hole back in a piece of wood. And then you cut a slide in it, a straight one, and the other one about 45 degrees. And when you do that, you get a sharp edge in here. And if you just blow in there, it doesn't do anything. I tried it because it was as interesting to me as a bowl. Anyhow, then you make a 3/8 dowel to put in there, but you cut a slice off the top. I don't know how well you can see that. You cut about 1/3 or 1/4 off the top, and when you put that in there with the flat side up, it directs your air right to the sharp part that's here. Half of it will come out, the other half goes inside, creates a turbulence or vortices. Anybody here pilots? Well, you know, if you're flying a small aircraft and you're being headed into the airport, following a huge jet, they tell you, stay above and beyond it. You don't want to get under it because where all the vortices and turbulence is, which slowly settles to the ground. And so if you fly in, if you end up following one, you stay above and beyond, or you don't want to get in that turbulence when you're about to land. Anyhow, that's the basics of a whistle. Now, what I'm going to do tonight is I'll make a train. Well, this one sounds like that. I'm going to make a train whistle, which is like 3 whistles like this. It'll have 3 holes drilled in it, and depending on a couple of things, I guess. But one of them is how deep you make this hole. So in the one I'm making, well, I'll show you. I think it's time for me to go. I just find some wood, and people always have trouble having wood to make bows. Well, whistles, since they're small, that's easy. You have any kind of piece of wood as long as it's solid. And I'm going to go through on how I do it. First of all, I don't see a lot of people using let me get it, my There's my tail. Well, I had that piece out. I'm looking for the spur. There it is. For the spur drive center. And I just did this with I just walked over to my bandsaw and cut it in, turn it around, make sure it's square to that, and slide it in a little bit again. And I'm going to tap it in there. I think maybe I did that before, so it has its grooves kind of in there. And I marked the center hole. Now's, I think, when it's time for me to get my glasses, see the finer things. Is this the only tailstock we have here?
Tailstock.
Tool rest, you mean?
Tool rest, yeah. I call it a tailstock. Is that the only tool rest we have?
Oh my. You know what? I do not know. I guess this one.
That'll do.
Want this one?
It's bigger than this one.
Yeah. Is this yours?
No, that ain't mine. Oh, this is a different size. That's why that was wound in further.
There's a big one over in this corner, isn't there?
Yeah. How about this?
Yeah, I may have that. That's not too big.
It'll be in the corner if you want to go smaller.
All right. I use the big tool first. Now, I mostly start this about 3,300.
You're funny, Nelson. You're funny.
We had a guy here that did that, you know. Pardon?
Nelson.
All right.
Nelson,
Yes.
would you like to have your shield put on?
Yeah, I brought it, didn't I?
Yeah.
This is a coordinated effort, see? I figure when I forget, somebody will tell me. But I do mostly wear this. That's a hard piece of stuff. And they also tell you, I think that was down at the symposium at Virginia, where they said, if you want to be a wood turner, don't just use one tool, use them all. And I never figured out which one's for which yet, so I use them all. Anyhow, I like to get the two we was talking about. I still call them tenons. It might be. I never heard anything called a spigot till, where's Maury at? Last week he's calling that a spigot, and I thought, now did he just make that? Is that just an old word of his that he came up with? But wouldn't you know, I was reading the directions on something just the other week, and they called that a spigot, and I thought, yeah, Maury's got it.
You make up a lot of stuff, but not that.
Yeah, right. Now, since this is so hard, I don't want to keep turning it, so I got one here. I figured out, I didn't know how much time I was going to have. And I thought, well, I know what the cooks on TV do. They bake a pie, then they walk over and put it in the oven, and then just open up the other oven and get the other pie out. So, anyhow, I'm going to switch now to my chuck. And for my chuck, I have Penn State chucks. They come 1 inch, and this lathe is the same as my Grizzly lathe is 1.25 inches. So we have to use an adapter. And one thing about it, and I feel like I'm talking to people that know more about this stuff than I do, but anybody new, or if you haven't run into any one exact thing, they do make adapters for anything, from anything to anything. So if you have a chuck you want to use, there's an adapter you can get to fit your lathe. All right. I've never done a demonstration here before, but what's a lot different than working in your shop, if you're, just like when I went to look for this, in my shop, I might not see it, but I know it's in my shop. But when you come out here, you say, hey, did I put that in or did I forget that? I'm using a live center in my tail here, cone shaped. I do have the cup centers, and the difference is when you use a cone center, if you had drilled a 1/2 inch hole and you want to center it, it'll center in it. If you have a 1 inch hole or whatever, it'll center it for you. Now it depends what you're doing with it. You don't want to push it too hard, you might split because there's nothing to stop it. As opposed to the the cup center, which I'll use later, which helps to hold that and keep it from splitting. But either one will do to line you up. You got to tighten that, don't you? I'll try this again. Now what I want to do is turn this down to about 1 3/4. And the reason we can't make this as small like the other is going to be 3 holes drilled in it. And so you have to have room for that. I have calipers, but I have a tendency to take this and measure, and I'll set this, it's at about 1 7/8. I'm not sure what I have that down to about that. I want it to about 1 3/4. So I will fine tune it a little bit. And I just use my ruler and set that. I run that 700 or 800, and what I'm going to do is just whenever you're just increasing or decreasing, or however you should say that, just a little bit, you have a tendency for this to go over and then get on down around it. Now I'm going to use this again. I got the, you know that, you recognize that? Yeah. It used to be yours when you had some tools here the other summer, and I bought that. I thought, boy, that's a monster thing. I think I should have one of them put in my shop, make it look like I knew what to buy.
It was better in your hands than it did in mine.
And I like it.
Yeah, good. That's a grizzly special. I like it because of this. It doesn't have much of a bevel one, and it makes it real nice to put against there and bring it down. And when you're looking at something like this, at least I do it. Some of the things I'm telling you, I learned from you guys. Some of it I see on YouTube. And I like to think that maybe at least 1 or 2 things I figured out myself. Anyhow, I like to look up the top of this instead of looking down here after you get it about right. Right now I can see there's a wee little bit of a hump there. And you can just, you can get it pretty good just by looking up the top. All right, we're going to say that's down to the size. Now I'm going to part off a piece here. 1.5 inches.
What kind of wood is that, maple?
Yeah, let's call it maple. I think maybe it's maple, but I just started looking around. In fact, I was back at my farm, and I thought I'm going to look in the old wood house there. There's all kinds of trees fall down, limbs break off. We cut it up to throw it in there. Might be 20 years old, might be 5. Anyhow, there's some pieces of stuff in there like that one I started with, and I think it's maple. I think of some limbs off a maple tree that was trimmed up and throw it in there. Yeah.
You can actually part that off.
Yeah.
You leave it between them.
Pardon?
Okay. Never mind.
I'm going to slow it down a little when I get closer to the... Is that the part you're thinking about?
Yeah, I just kind of wondering where those two pieces were going to wind up.
That's why we got that there in case the guy's crazy. Now I'm running about 500.
Nelson, would you like me to keep reminding you about the face shield, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good idea. See, if I'm at my shop, I don't stop and talk all the time.
Right.
I get done faster. Well, some guys, when they're parting it off, they'll run it down till it ain't very thick and take a saw and cut it off. But I'm pretty good. I haven't had anything fly apart yet, so.
Face shield.
Now is a good time for a face shield. Now I'll lay this and back. This will be the main part of it after a bit. And it's always a good idea to get this thing out or back. And sooner or later, it'll get you in the elbow. I'm going to cup that out a little, but next I'm going to drill a 3/8 hole. Using a brad point bit. And I want to go in, but at least I'll run this about 500, something close to that. Now I could put a piece of tape on there, or I could have, but I'll just measure it. That's 1 7/16 inches. I'll just do a little bit yet. So, I don't know how long this is, so I'll back it up a little bit. Now I'm going to make the mouthpiece. I used to call this my 3/8 bowl gouge, but I think maybe this is called a 1/4 inch bowl gouge, you know. According to some of the bigger ones I have, that's marked on them, Robert Sorby, that's marked on them 1/2 inch, and it's bigger than a 1/2 inch, but the part inside's 1/2 inch, so I'm thinking that's maybe what to go by. I didn't get any answers on that.
It depends on which country. They size them different in the U.S. and Europe.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Inside versus outside.
This gets the shoulder put on and gets put back onto the other piece, just like we do when we make Christmas ornaments. I'll speed it up to about 800 or 1,000. Okay, that didn't hurt what I'm doing. That's what I thought came off there. Now this part's the mouthpiece. And remember, I got a 3/8 hole drilled through it, so I can't make it too small. I'm not good left-handed, but I try it here and there. Takes me about 3 hours to do one of these. So you can sign up for the next session.
Part 1.
Yeah. Now I'm going to part that off later when this is put back on the rest of the whistle. I'll get a chance to fine tune it, including sand, and clean that up a little bit more. And this one's tricky, it comes off early.
How about your face shoes?
Now, Now, one thing that's nice about lathe, thank you, lathes that you can turn down pretty slow. You can turn them on slow, because I don't have a center hole here to put that in right now. That's not too bad. Sometimes you can take any one of your flat tools, if you haven't made that real tight yet and if it's wobbling a little, you can put this on there and straighten it up. You guys done that?
Yeah.
That's good enough for do here is just straighten that up. No, that ain't all I want to do. I gotta put a spigot on here. Better to go slow than fast, or you'll be I'll have to start this whole thing over again. We're just about there. Now it's on there, and later when we end up gluing that back on, we can take our tools and clean this up a little bit. Next thing we need to do is drill 3 holes, 3 3/8 inch holes down in here. And what we want to do, I just made the first one, guess at the second 2. Then I just take my ruler and check them so that they're close. There's nothing as far as the whistle part that says they have to be exact, but they should be close. And I just lay it on there and come around and roll the ruler around there. That's about 1 9/16. That's about 1 11/16. That's about 5/8. Now if I move this one a 16th, that ought to make them all about that. Anyhow, of anything I've seen about it, I don't think it would make probably any difference. Now, I'm going to stick this back in here for a minute. Now, what is somewhat important is these holes we drill in here be about the same distance down on each one. And we want the bit, the 3/8 hole, which I ain't going to drill now because I need a drill press here, to be about 1/8 inch from the spigot. I'm starting to use that word already now that I know it's a real word. And I put it in the drill press. I have a jig made up. I cut this off and put it in the jig and put a clamp on it. Same jig I used to make pen blanks a couple of times I made them. And drill them down in there. 1 4 inches, 1 3.5, 1 3. So if you guys blink your eyes, I'll get one out that has them drilled in it.
You mean you're gonna take one out of the oven?
Yeah, this out of the oven. Well, I knew it takes too long. Well, put that there before I lose it. Chucks is sure nice. The old timers, I don't know where, I just heard this recently. Old bows, some of you guys were around, I think. The old bows, I don't know what all they made to hold them so they could cut them, but when they was done in the bottom, they'd have screw holes in them. And then they must have been little screws because it didn't come out the inside. And then some guys left them like that. They normally didn't finish bottoms, or at least some I've seen. And one of you guys said that some of the old guys used to get that green felt or whatever, cover up screw holes.
Yeah, that's what my dad did for years.
Yep. Now I'm going to mark one here. A mark at 1/2 inch. And 1 inch. I might have to get that little one. Let me see. Well, I'm just getting some more space here. I don't want to run that off. I don't know how far that one comes out, but this will get me close enough. I heard a story about some wood turners. I'll take a minute. I'll get done here. Time. Heard a story about some wood turners coming home from a symposium, and it got to snowing real bad, and it got to real blizzard. So one of them said to the other, and they already seen some people run off the road. He said, we can't keep going like this. We're getting in trouble. And I heard farmers will take you in, and here's a farm lane, let's go in there. So they went into the farm and knocked on the door, and the lady answered the door, and she said, yeah, we'll put you up. She said, but I just recently became a widow, and I don't think it would look right to the people I know if you stayed in the house, but you could stay in the barn. That's fine, they said. So they went to the barn, stayed in the barn, left the next morning. About 9 months later, this one guy got a certified letter. And so he went in the next morning with his buddy, and he said, hey, he said, remember we stayed at that farmer's place that night, it was snowing? I said, yeah. He said, did you sneak out of the barn and go in with that lady? Yeah, he said, I did. I'm sorry about that. He said, did you tell her did you give her my name and say you was me? Yeah, he said I did that. I'm sorry about that. I said, I really apologize. Shouldn't have done that. And the other guy said, well, he said, don't worry about it. He says, fine. He said, I got a certified letter yesterday from an attorney. It said she passed away a couple of weeks ago, and she deeded the farm over to me. So you got to think things through sometimes. They won't turn out like you think. Now, the first thing I'm going to do here, I'm cutting that shape in that I showed you in that little whistle. I want to go straight in here until I feel these holes. And you can feel them when you start hitting them. I won't run it so fast. Pull this down. It's starting to come down over my eyes. I'm going to have to reset it or it'll be over my eyes and I won't can see. They're starting to show up. I see one. It's nice if all three of them shows up just about the same. So when you drill the hole, as long as you get it started at the right spot, it wouldn't matter if it goes off a little bit down there. Maybe a little bit yet. Now I'm cutting the one at the 45 degree down to meet those, the other cut. They ain't looking too bad. That's faster than I did some of them when I made them at home. I think that's probably what we need for that one. In my shop, all my tools is on a thing over at this side, so it screws me up a little bit. Now, I don't know if you can see from here, I'll pass this around then, but these holes I drilled in there, when you cut down on them at a 45, it gets kind of fuzzy at the edges. And so what I do to clean them up a little bit, I took a 1/4 inch dowel, cut a slot in it, and wrapped a little bit of sandpaper around it, That's why I brought my drill. I didn't bring it to drill those other holes. It cleans it up a little bit. Now, the next thing you do to this is put these pieces in. They're called a fipple. I can't talk with that down over my face. It's called a fipple. I made them. I did try to use some dowels, but it seemed like they seemed a little loose, so I made some of my own. They was a little loose too, so whatever. Anyhow, you put that in with the flat side up. Try to get it as flat up as you can, and it should go in just till it becomes flat with this edge, and then you glue them in. I happen to have another one that they're already glued in. You let them stick out, glue them in. I walk over to the bandsaw and clip them off. These are glued in. Let me pass that around for a minute. I don't have another story. Now's when I can tell you one. Not that's in my mind.
So you don't have to adjust the fipple.
I put them in.
The reason why I'm saying that is the whistles I make is just a one piece. You
Yeah.
always have to fool with the fipple to make it the sound you want. Just
Well, you can change that sound just a little bit by doing that. I think.
and the thing is, if you don't get it right, it won't be no sound at all.
Oh yeah. Well, I put them in there, and then blow on them a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think if I've found that you put them exactly even with that, you'll be okay. It's a different one.
Sounds, yeah. Nelson, you want to hold that?
Yeah.
Lost you. That was bad on my. Now I got you.
Anyhow, while that one's going around, you clean that up a little bit just like I did there. And this fits on it. You drill the 3 holes, and then you're right back to where the one that we just passed around. Then you cut the holes in it. And there's a finished one. Nobody's blowed that lately. Jim, you could blow that for him.
That's right. Does sound like a pencil, doesn't it? Yeah, that sounds good. Where'd you get those instructions at?
I got them, well, I watched a couple of things on YouTube, and then kind of took parts of one and the other and came up with that.
It's a good idea to do
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it really sounds great.
Yeah, I think it's neat. I ain't a musician, see, at all. I would never promise to come up and sing to you guys unless you're really my enemies. But I took that home to my wife because she's seen this. I'd made a couple of these little,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and gave that to her, and she blowed it, and she said, that has 3 tones. And I thought, dang, how would you know that? I said, how do you know that? I said, you already looked at the 3 holes. No, I didn't know about the holes. Can you, any of you guys, can you hear 3 tones?
I heard 2, but
I know there's tones.
Some people can, yeah.
They,
the train whistles, somewhere back along the way, they wanted whistles for the trains to scare the cows and whatever was crossing the lines. And in train whistles, they made some 2-tone ones, some 3 tones, and some 4 tones. Train whistles. 75% of them were 3-tone. And so I thought, all right, I'll drill 3 holes. The only difference is, and I didn't try any, it'd be easier to divide up the 4 holes than it is to divide up the 3 and drill them. Just make 3 different lengths. From what I understand, I don't think it would matter, but I think it's important that you keep the same distance between all of them. These was 3, 3.5, and 4. So you could go 3, 3.5, 4.5 if you wanted to try that. But that's my story for the train whistles.
So if the train whistle wouldn't work, the cow catcher would get it.
Yeah, right. That's right. Maybe I'll make cow catcher next time.
Thank you, Nelson.
You're welcome, guys.
Good job.
Thanks.
Yeah. Hope you didn't. Well, I'm